Howdy.
Hey gang, thanks for tuning in. It's the Castaway Friday Fish Fry podcast.
Brought to you by these fine sponsors. For Her Outdoor Apparel, Spot Choker, Lanier Gym Fishing, home of Lanier Baits.
Okay. Is this number 5? Are we on number 5? I think we're on
This is number 5, I think.
Is it? Well, welcome to the Friday Fish Fry podcast. That's a lot to say. I know we haven't had one for a while, but finally got everybody together except for Jennifer and Jennifer's granddaughter, Peyton, who I think they're out of town for the next 2 weeks or they're busy doing something. So they couldn't make it. So we figured that we'd just be us four, Jack and Jeff and Jimmy and myself. And we talk about, get everybody caught up on what we're doing as far as fishing reports go. And get everybody caught up on my new boat out there. I got the new boat and got it all fixed up, ready to go. And then we'll talk about forward-facing sonar a little bit. I know that it's a topic that nobody discusses anymore, but we just want to bring it up and kind of bring it back and see if, we can revisit some of that stuff that nobody talks about anymore. So I'd already canvassed the guys about forward-facing sonar and what they thought about it, and I'd talk a little bit about me using it on the boat, on the new boat. I've never used it before until now. So thought I'd talk a little bit about that. I'm kind of a newbie when it comes to that. Jeff shown me his before, and I've rode around, and we've used it when I've been out with Jeff. Jimmy, I think I used it with you on the boat one time.
Yeah.
And I noticed that we'll get into this discussion for forward-facing sonar, but I will say this about Jimmy before I forget. The only time that I think Jimmy's ever caught more fish than me when we were in the same boat was when you were using forward-facing sonar. So
I don't think I had it then. I
think
think
you
I'd
did.
legitimately just put it on you that day.
no, I don't
Which
think
was,
so.
it's not,
I
it's
can
a rare-
remember.
It's a rare thing.
I can remember we pulled up to a point and you were like, oh, there's a fish over there to the right. And you threw to the right and caught this 4-pounder right in front of me. And I just shook my head. I was like, no, this can't be. Jimmy can't beat me like this. So anyway, Jimmy, he uses forward-facing sonar. Jack, you got it? Garmin. Jeff, Garmin? Lowrance.
Active target.
Is that Lowrance, right?
Yep,
Okay.
Lowrance.
All right. And I'm Garmin, too, for what little I do know. But we were going to get everybody kind of caught up on what we've been doing fishing-wise. I have been fishing out of the new boat for a couple weeks now, what little I could. My knee's been kind of screwed up. If you follow me on Facebook, you probably saw me post a picture of a shot that I got in my knee. So doing a little better now, getting back out there. Fished a little bit today, a little bit yesterday, a little bit a few days ago. So I've been kind of out there. It's been kind of a struggle for me. So I'm going to kind of talk to Jeff a little bit first about, we'll get the good news out of the way first. I'm sure you've been doing better than, I haven't been doing too bad, but I know Jeff's probably been catching more fish than I have. So I've already talked to Jeff a little bit about what he's been doing, but Jeff, it's kind of the same stuff that we do this time of February, or is this something different?
No, I think we're a little ahead of where we typically are. So the shaky head's definitely coming into play.
Yeah.
The finesse swim bait is still in play. Crankbaits are coming into play. Chatterbaits and A-rigs and jerkbaits. So I've caught fish on all of those within the last 7 days.
Have you? So let me ask you this. Percentage-wise, moving baits versus creepy crawly baits, like the wormy stuff.
It's really kind of dependent on the day. So, some days it's worm heavy, and then other days it's moving bait heavy, and it kind of depends on the day and where I show up. I had a day last week one day, and every single thing we caught was on a bait caster with a moving bait.
Really?
Either a jerk bait or an A-rig.
Yeah.
every fish we caught that day. We didn't catch
right?
a single. Well, I take that back. I caught one on a Kitech also, or two on a Kitech.
Yeah.
But everything else was on a jerk bait or an A-rig.
What determines whether it's a wormy day or a jerkbait day?
Oh, I mean, considering I junk fish, I just kind of go through
Go through until you
yeah,
get
until
it.
I start getting
Okay.
bit, and then I'll run with that until I stop getting bit, and I'll pick up something else. But
Yeah.
that particular day, I saw fish suspended, and they were about 10 feet down over a 20-foot bottom.
Okay.
So when I saw them suspended, and they were, let's say, halfway back in one of the pockets, and they were 10 feet down over a 20-foot bottom, and I was like, I think we were throwing a crankbait up shallow. And I'm like, that's not the deal. It was where I saw them out with forward-facing sonar. I didn't necessarily target them to start off with, but switched over to an A-rig and a jerkbait, and then we started getting bit. We did play cat and mouse with it some, and then the other ones we were just blind casting out because I had a client in the boat, and he was going one way and I was going the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we both hooked up doing that.
And so you were using forward-facing sonar. How much? I mean, were you using it just to locate your fish? And
That's how I found the fish. Like we were going down the banks throwing, crankbaits on a wind-blown, like a typical, rocky clay secondary leading back into a spawning pocket, right? And then as we were going down and I was controlling the boat, I just happened to pan around and just saw them ding, 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 suspended out over. And I'm like, we need to see if we can do this. And then I got to looking, and they were all over the place. So it wasn't just one or two. So
they were just scattered.
They were just scattered. I mean, they were, here, there, over there. I mean, so yes, we did like, hey, the fish line up at that pole and, do this and speed it up, and that where I could guide the bait essentially over top of it. But then there were also times when I was looking for one, we would just make random cast, and we still hooked up with fish.
Yeah.
So that maybe I panned by too fast where I didn't see him, or the fish came out from under a dock, or it came up off the bottom. I mean, who knows? But we caught fish both using forward-facing sonar to guide the bait to the fish, and then we also caught them just by traditional, like,
Just
oh, look, they're
throwing it.
Yeah, just throwing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the forward-facing sonar gave it away that the fish were suspended.
So that was when you made the determination, let's try the jerkbait.
Yep.
Right?
And jerkbait and A-rig.
And what were they, 10, 15 feet? You said 15? Around 15?
About 10 feet over a 20-foot bottom.
So that's, I think every winter when we get into February, late February, this time of year, basically, February, and even maybe sometimes January, when you see those suspended fish like what you saw, the choice is generally a jerkbait, something that you can jerk and pause. And we've talked about this before. The reason, one of the reasons you picked the jerkbait, I know a lot of guys move it a lot, but you probably jerk and pause it and use a long pause, and that's indicative of February when the water's cold because they like that long pause. They just don't want to chase stuff.
No, I mean,
all the way back to the boat.
The water temps that day were still hovering right around 50 mark.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the water's still cold.
Yeah.
Last year, I don't think we got into the 40s hardly at all.
No.
And we're just now getting back to 50. So,
Yeah, it's been holding kind of. I've been kind of thinking that with these longer days, we'd see a gradual.
it shot up some today.
I saw when I came back to the dock, I had like 53 and maybe a 54, touching 54. Garmin was like 54, and the Hummingbird was 53 something. What'd you have?
Today?
Yeah.
Before the rains were 51 on Garmin to 53, 54 on Lawrence, and then after the rain, it shot up 2 degrees.
Yeah.
Now that'll chill out as the night goes on, especially with lows in the 30s at night. But it was funny. You could almost, when it was pouring down rain, you could almost watch the surface temp creep up, because it creeped up about 2 degrees over the course of that 30 minutes. It was pretty interesting to watch.
Well, that's going to help warm up the surface temps a little bit, but it looks like we're going to get a little cold front come through, and it's probably going to cool everything back off. So I'm not sure that it's going to rise anymore for the next, 3 or 4 days.
No, it'll stabilize and probably drop a few degrees.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking with the cold nights getting down into the 30s. So, So when did you decide, okay, I'm going to use an A-rig? What made you throw with the A-rig?
It was really, I had one jerkbait tied on and I had an A-rig sitting next to it, and I handed the jerkbait to my client because he loved a jerkbait. I was like, here you go. I'm going to sling this and you sling that. And that's kind of how that.
You caught him on the A-rig then?
Yeah, we caught him on both.
Yeah. Same scenario, kind of point.
Same exact stuff. Okay. Same general area. The only difference is I threw an A-rig and he threw a jerkbait.
So let me ask you this, Jeff. When you're using your A-rig, for everybody watching that's not familiar with an A-rig this time of year, the A-rig is a great tool to use this time of year. When you're throwing it, Jeff, do you count it down? How do you approach your A-rig throwing it?
The way I've used it, if I'm throwing it around docks, I'm going to count it down a couple seconds just to get it below where the floats are going to be.
Black floats.
And I'm going to, bring it back. With these suspended fish, that is where I actually used the forward-facing sonar and played cat and mouse with it, because the A-rig is a very large return and it's relatively easy to pick up, especially for somebody who is new to trying to live scope fish. It's a lot easier to see 5 of those jig heads with swim baits coming through the water compared to one
tiny one. Yeah.
Yep. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the bait fall, and then I'm going to see what depth the fish is, and then I'm going to start winding it. I want the A-rig to go right above, a foot or so above where the bass is, maybe 2 feet above them.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how they react, and either pause or speed it up, or play cat and mouse with them. But it works really well, especially when you're trying to teach somebody how to do this.
Now, if you didn't have the forward-facing sonar, historically, we were throwing A-rigs before.
Oh yeah, no, count it down.
You count it down.
Yeah,
you wouldn't let it go all the way to the bottom and then pull it, or
no. Because that's like $50, and you're like, oh man. I would try to keep it either right off the bottom, a couple of feet off the bottom, so count it down to where I got it down, or just I'm over a 20-foot bottom. I'm going to count it down 10, and then I'm going to just do a steady retrieve back and try to keep it relatively straight.
That's basically what I did. I used the A-rig, but it got to the point where, Jimmy, you're probably the same way. It just gets to be a lot of work.
It is.
If you're just slinging it, like in February and March, you got this great dock bite on the A-rig because a lot of those fish get under the black floats to warm up. You run that A-rig right beside them, they'll come out of there and just smash it. We've watched them do that. So, I've used it for years around docks in February and March with good success. And also on points, whether it's a primary point or a secondary point in the creek. But like Jeff, if I knew that I was throwing it into 10 feet of water, I'd count it down to 5, and that's a foot a second drop, Sometimes it's more than that. But
right, depending on what size heads you have on it.
Yeah, if you have a big array, it's going to slow it down. Some would think it'd speed it up, but it actually slows it down with a big array because you got all that drag from swim baits or whatever it is. So it's like you. If it was a 20-foot bottom, I'd count it to 10. If it was a 10-foot bottom, I'd count it to 5. Unless you've got a good A-rig retriever on the boat and you feel like retrieving them off the bottom, then you probably want to count it down and not go all the way to the bottom, especially in areas that you don't know about. And that's totally not with forward-facing sonar. Like if you don't have it.
Yeah, it's just straight fishing 101.
Yeah. Then, count it halfway down. But a lot of times if you let it sink all the way to the bottom, you're not familiar, you're probably going to lose an A-rig.
Right, and that's, $50 easy by the time you add in heads.
All the stuff. Yeah.
Adds up.
So, an A-rig is great. It's a great choice this time of year, especially if you're going to work that sucker around docks. I will say this. I got a few years back, it was February. It was a BFL Bulldog Series. Here, I was on this great A-rig bite. I think I told this story before. But I was on this great A-rig bite right up until the BFL. And I just knew I was going to do well in BFL because I was catching them on docks with an A-rig the whole time. Water was a little bit stained back here, right? come BFL day, the water had cleared up back here. I could not catch a fish back here on an A-rig with that clear water. Now, I went above Brown's Bridge where it was stained, and I made the best out of a bad day by going up there and throwing the A-rig around the docks up there in the stained water and caught fish. They would not bite it in the clear water. They were too smart. They could see it too well. And it took the BFL to teach me that. Is that A-rig, sometimes it don't work as well in clear water, in that gin clear water. Sometimes the bass figure that out. And so that was one thing that I learned is in that stained water, that A-rig works really, really well.
Well, when it's really clear, you basically what I'll do is I'll just go to a 2.8 on a 1/8 or a 3/16 ounce head, and instead of 5, I only have 1. But I swim it up with that little finesse swim bait. The same thing I've been throwing into ditches. I just lighten up my head down to a 1/8 or a 3/16, depending on how deep I want it to go.
That's a good idea.
Let it rip.
That's one thing.
And they will smoke it.
Yeah. So we got the jerk bait and we got the A-rig, which has been doing good for you, and crankbait.
Crankbait.
Red color.
Red colored, yeah. So a demon or a mud bug, or depending on what a red crankbait. And either I've been throwing rock crawlers and DT6 and DT8s.
Oh yeah. Which one's been the best for you, or can you even tell?
I mean, I switched when I broke one off, so I switched to the other one.
Yeah.
I was like, well, there goes that one. Well, I got another one right here. I'm tied on and let it rip.
Yeah. Well, it seems like everybody's liking the rock crawler the last few years. That 55 kind of came out of the woodwork, and everybody was like, ooh, rock crawler, And I was even on the rock crawler train there for a year or two, but there was a lot of other ones like a DT10 and a shad pattern that worked good. I can remember Ben Brisbois, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. February, like 7 years ago, February tournament, crankbait, won it on a crankbait.
That was BFL, wasn't it?
BFL Penguin. Yep. Penguin DT10, I believe it was. DT10 or DT12 maybe, in a Penguin. But that was this time of year too. So that was another good one. And then I used my 1.5.
That's a great one too.
It is. I got this video. It's one of the most watched videos that I have. I've got like 400 videos, 450. But one of the most watched was Jimbo and I went out one time. Side by side, he was in the front with a DT10. I was in the back with the 1.5. And I kept up with him as far as numbers went. He had me on size, though. The DT10, it got a little bit deeper than that 1.5. The 1.5 would get about 8 feet down. And, of course, he was working that DT10 at least 10 feet down, and he was getting the bigger fish. I think at the end of the day, he popped over by Lake Lanier Islands on a rocky point. He popped one that was about 4 or 5. And then we went over to Flowery Branch on a rocky point over there right across from Holiday Marina. He pops a 5+ over there, and he had a heck of a bag that day. Well, we both caught a lot of fish, but that was like 3 days after Ben had won the BFL using that Penguin crankbait. So Jimbo had like a stack of them, right? And so anyway, he was prepared. But man, that thing did awesome. I mean, I was really shocked at how well it did. But that was the DT10, I believe. And so that was a good one. So you got the rock crawler, you got the DT10. I always got XD5 that's going to work this time of year,
Green gizzard shad.
Yeah. They got like a plain shad pattern. It's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, it's just like white with a black back.
And a black dot on it, and that's about it. But that one was another good one that I used quite a bit, too. So those were another one. What else?
Any lipless crankbaits?
I'm not a big lipless guy, Jack. I don't know. You guys use them?
I've got one tied on the rod box now, but
what kind is it?
It's a custom painted one, Oconee Custom Baits.
Oh, okay. All right. What color's it painted?
It's got a little red in it. It's got a little green in it. And it's very translucent.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good looking bait.
You use them, Jack?
Oh,
Yeah?
pre-spawn? Yeah. The
Here?
2-tap KVD.
Really? Mm-hmm. No kid. You do
Oh, yeah.
good on it?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of areas you target with that?
Same thing, secondary points.
So you're throwing it on points. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Lipless crankbait. See, that's something that it doesn't get used or talked about a lot here on Lanier. I've used them in the past. I've probably bought $500 worth of them, and they're probably still in my shop. You know,
Looks
'cause I
rusted
don't
on her now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I don't use them that much. Now, another thing that I do use this time of year it's got a, well, there's a couple things, but the little Kitex on just a plain, this plain old Damiki.
Yeah, everybody.
Swimming it, though.
Yes, everybody thinks that pre-spawn it's time to put up the Kitex, and you can catch them on a 2.8 or a Prodigy all the way into April. I mean, and you can have some banner days in March on that.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing it the same places you throw a jerkbait.
Yeah.
Just if they won't hit a jerkbait, put the jerkbait down, grab that, and swim it basically right above the bottom.
Yeah, or I'd count it down to 5 or 10. And it's like you say, if I see this fish suspended, then I'm probably going to look, if they're at 10 to 15 feet like you saw them, then I'm probably going to count it down to 10 and get it down 5 to 10 feet so I'm right in that area where they are. But, yeah, that's another thing that I use, and I've got plenty of videos on my YouTube page with the little Damiki rigs. You just have to go to my YouTube page and type in Damiki, and you'll see them. But that was another one that's coming up, and you never want to rule out a chatterbait this time of year, man. I'm telling you.
Caught them on that too.
Yeah.
What color?
Like an orange cross, so an orange one,
That's what
and
I've got
then
tied on
and
right
then
now.
a shad pattern with a touch of chartreuse in it.
Serious.
Yeah, if it's muddy, I'll throw the orange one or a black and blue one, and
Yeah.
if it's clear, then I go to a white / shad with a touch of chartreuse in it.
Yeah.
That orange one is kind of crawfishy looking.
Yeah. Are you guys catching them on that? I mean, are you
I
catching
have,
them?
yeah. I mean, I haven't wrecked them on it, but I mean, it's
think
one of those two colors is tied on depending on the water clarity, and it has been for the last 3 weeks and probably will be through April.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it'll work through the spawn, especially when they're up around the docks and they're getting ready to spawn. Man, they'll whack a chatterbait. You run that just like the A rig, run it right by them right underneath them black floats, and they'll come out of there and smoke that thing. Where sometimes they won't smoke a big array like a rig, but if it's a single thing like a chatterbait, they'll come out and get it. I've caught a lot of them with a chatterbait that way around the docks. The same docks I would throw an A-rig, only they want something smaller, and so the chatterbait works. So that's another one. And then, I mean, when you start getting into late March, we have those windy March days.
Spinnerbait.
Exactly. I got one sitting around one of the spot sticker. Is it spot sticker? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mini-me's.
Mini-me's.
Yeah, mini-me's. I got some mini-me's there that Ryan Coleman had sent me last year. I still got some that I haven't used yet. So spinnerbait is another good one to use. A lot of guys ask about trailers. What kind of trailers you'd use on a spinnerbait, or do you even use a trailer? When to use a trailer?
You talking
when
about soft plastic trailers? Or
Yeah. Like, or you use just a second hook, right?
I use a stinger hook, but I don't. I very seldom do I put a.
Stinger.
Yeah.
You're a stinger guy. You stinger guy.
If you're not
Okay.
using the only time I might not use a stinger hook is if I'm throwing in blowdowns,
Yeah.
but just casting across points or going down the bank or whatever. I got a stinger hook.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many fish you will catch on the stinger hook.
Oh, I know. I use a stinger. But then, like last year and the year before, I'm just putting a swim bait on there.
Yep.
The problem with the mini-me is he doesn't have a keeper on there. I wish Ryan put a keeper on the mini-me because I like to put plastics on it. You know, I put a fluke on it and just smoked them with a mini-me with a fluke. But the problem is, after about 4 casts, that fluke wants to slide down, and then you got to ram it back up the, you know. So if I was gonna send Ryan a text or an email and say, hey man, is there any way you could put like a wire keeper on your mini-me?
A little super glue will help you do
Yeah,
that too, though.
yeah, you could glue it, but man, then a fish hits it and it'll jerk it right off of there because you're actually gluing it to something that's very smooth.
Yeah.
The paint, and so the glue doesn't seem to work as well on that. So it's like, dang, I wish he'd put a keeper on here. So maybe we'll see that in the future. But spinnerbait's always a good thing to use, like March and April. So what about you guys come up with anything else?
I have started to see fish blow bait in the afternoons on the surface.
Ooh, really?
Saw it yesterday and the day before.
Yeah. a little
So
bit of surface
it's
activity.
about time to break out the.
Top water.
Yeah.
The T word.
Yeah, it's about time to put them in the boat. Now I'm not saying it's time to go run it as a pattern,
No.
but you know it's going to be here before we know it. So you know the red fin bite's coming, especially with water getting warmer the way it is. I mean, as we start getting close to that 60-degree mark, red fin bite, the wake bait bite, like all that stuff,
Yeah.
that's coming.
Oh yeah. 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 It won't be long. That'll be here. I mean, you know, sometimes in March, I was telling somebody that I was catching them on the Vixen in March back here, like 6 or 7 years ago. I haven't seen a year like that since, so I'm not counting on it happening again.
Like I would not rule out a riser,
Yeah. I got some. Over there.
especially.
But not on a day like today.
No. I mean, it would, but you're going to, throw it up shallow because especially when you get those, they push those big balls with redfin way in the very back and then, reel it just fast enough so it stays on the surface and it's almost like a wake bait.
Yeah. You could also use the riser by letting it sink and then treating it like a jerk bait, can't you?
You can let it sink and then reel it. As soon as you start reeling, it's going to come up.
Pop
and
up.
I have done that with fish that have missed the bait and then gone down. As I've killed the retrieve, let it sink, and then as soon as I'd start reeling it back up, they'll come back around and smack it.
That makes sense. Yeah. I was thinking with that riser, and I thought I heard somebody telling me that they would let it sink over brush and then pull it up real quick to try and draw the fish out of the brush to come up and hit it. So I was thinking that would be another good way to use it. So
Yeah, that's where, again, the dreaded forward-facing sonar that comes into play because you can watch it sink and you don't hang it up in the brush. And
yeah,
you-
right, exactly. Well, I got some now, man. We had the NOE show last weekend, the weekend before,
2 weekends ago.
2 weekends before. So I was able to scam some risers from Chuck when I was over there.
Yeah, he also had some vixens too.
Yeah.
Vixen
I
was
saw
brought
it.
up a while ago.
Yeah.
I might have brought one or two of those.
Yeah, I
back
got
home with
one.
me.
I made sure that I got a couple
Yeah.
of those on the way out the door too, because that's going to be something that works pretty good coming up too, is the vixen type walking baits, So that's about it. I mean, I could sit here and probably rattle off another half dozen.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, we're getting into the point in time where you can fish your strength.
Yeah,
like, if you want to
exactly.
fish deep right now, you can stay deep. If you want to fish shallow, you can go shallow.
You can go jug fishing.
If you want to throw moving baits, you can go throw moving baits. If you want to drag stuff, you can go drag stuff. So it's really kind of like, what do you want to do? Where are you most comfortable?
Yeah.
And go have at it.
So the way my days have been going for the last couple of weeks is if I'm out there early in the morning, and this might be totally different for somebody else, so don't take this as the gospel. But what I've done early is if I get out early, I'm targeting the ditches, and this is like 30, 40, 45 feet of water in the ditch. That's the areas that I'm targeting using live scope and using a swim bait, And some of the fish I'm catching right under the boat. I mean, they don't show up until I almost get over them. Drop the swim bait straight down to them, watch it all on live scope, watch my bait go down. Some of them get excited and come up to meet it, and grab it, and some of them just swim away from it, There's no rhyme or reason to whether they grab it or they swim away with it, or swim away from it when I drop it down there. But that's early. So I've been focused on live scope in the ditches early. But I have this feeling as the day progresses, the fish are moving shallower. So I am starting to move shallower with the fish, especially if it's a sunny day. They're going to the docks and the rocks on the sunny days. Of course, the last 2 days haven't been very sunny, so it's been kind of like hodgepodge. But my fish early have been coming out of the ditches, and I caught one that was almost 4 pounds out of the ditch the other day, out of 45 feet of water. And then turn around and come back here, back in the back around the marina in one of the docks, and to pitch it in front of a dock where it's only 4 feet deep in front of the dock and pull one out that was 4 pounds out of there. So I went from catching one at 45 feet deep at 8 o'clock in the morning to catching one 4 feet deep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
They're scattered across the entire depth,
spectrum.
the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the odds of you going out and catching 50 in a ditch right now are they're decreasing exponentially.
Yeah, it's
because they're
that-
scattered. I mean, there's some are still there. I mean, I was on a sonar trip this morning and we pulled up and checked a ditch that was in 40 to 50 feet of water, and it was like little cockroaches.
Were they?
Oh yeah, they were all over
there.
the place.
Yeah, that's the way I've been seeing them early. But I mean, if you're kind of new to the ditch game, you got to shop the ditches till you find the ones that have fish. Not every ditch is going to have fish.
Nope.
I might say 1 out of 5 you might be able to pull some fish out of there. 1 out of 5 ditches. You just have to shop around and go slow and look hard. A lot of times they're glued so much to the bottom, you have to pull them off the bottom with something. But this week, what is today? Wednesday, Monday, I guess it was, the dock bite was phenomenal in the afternoon. I think Monday afternoon we had some sun. Mm-hmm. Was it sunny Monday afternoon? Mm-hmm. That's the day then.
Yeah, that was the first day where it warmed up too.
Yeah, so I go to the docks about noon, 1 o'clock, and start running docks. The sun had came out, and I started catching some good fish out of the docks. So I go back yesterday, which was Tuesday, cloud cover, sucked. I mean, absolutely stunk. And I mean, I caught a few, but not like when it was sunny. And then today I ran some docks after I got my boat back in the water this afternoon, and kind of stunk then, but it was overcast again, I mean, it wasn't sunny. So the takeaway from that was they're going to the docks in the afternoon when the sun warms up, probably them black floats or whatever.
This afternoon they were in front of the docks.
All right, where are they? See, most of the fish I've been catching has been in front of the docks.
They were. I caught fish in front of the docks today.
And they're going to move back to them spud poles before long, but for right now, it's like the deepest part of the dock is where they're going to be.
Right.
Out on the end
because it's still
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but as the days get warmer in the afternoons and the spud poles heat up and black, then yes, it's time for them to start moving up. But
Stage.
But when they come out of the ditch, the first thing they come to, as they're trying to move shallower, is the outside or the deeper edge of the docks, and they're like, oh, there's something there, and they kind of hang out, And if they want to move up, they move up. If they want to go down, they go down.
Yeah.
But they're out on the outside. I mean, I've caught a couple off the shallow sides of the docks, but those have been the exceptions, not the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I helped you out on that. Remember, we were out the other day and I hung up, and
I don't know anything about that, Jimmy.
while we were getting mine undone, he pitched behind a dock and caught
Catches
one.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had insult to injury.
I believe it. Yeah. I mean, you get kicked around a lot.
I know
like
it's
that,
terrible
Jimmy,
taking
man.
advantage of the old man.
God.
See, I haven't even been getting on the water till 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
You're
been-
missing the morning bite.
I know it, but I'm catching them on the end of docks in 10 to 20 foot of water too,
Yeah.
and between docks.
Yeah.
If you can find a little bit of brush in between docks, they're there too.
Yeah. Shaky head.
Shaky head, yeah.
Shaky
and
head.
My biggest fish have come last week and the first part of this week have actually come from between docks instead of on the front of them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just happen to know that they're where the brush is too. So
That's when I caught all them dock fish on Monday. Most of them were between the docks. They weren't on the docks.
Yeah.
They were roaming between the docks. Now, I would say on a day like today, they're probably huddled up in that dock or something, when it's overcast and not sunny. But on Monday, they were just roving around the docks, and
Drop shot too on that brush.
yeah, yeah,
I killed him last year on the drop shot.
like
This time of year,
yeah.
Yeah, it's time to start.
brush.
It's time to.
Yeah.
It's time to
Ends of
break out
point.
the
in
old.
between docks.
Time to break out the old pitch shot again.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's Jeff's specialty is a pitch shot. When it starts warming up, but especially around the docks too. And, don't you throw them around the
Oh
dock? Yeah,
I whack them around. Like when everybody starts throwing a wacky rig,
yeah.
that's when I'll break out a pitch shot.
There you
It's
go.
just something different. I mean, every, 3 out of 4 boats are going to throw a wacky rig
Yeah.
or a shaky head, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I've had one rod in my hand for the last 2 weeks. That's
Shaky head.
Shaky head.
yeah. Well, it's
I
kind
mean,
of like me.
that's the way I've been catching them. So I haven't diverted from the
See,
thing.
I've been kind of wondering if I ain't like stuck on stupid again with this shaky head because I haven't been getting real good numbers. I mean, I'm getting some here and there, whether it's docks or secondary points. But, I mean, looking back at last year this time, the year before, and the year before, and the year before, this year's down for me as far as, the numbers part of it. I'm just wondering, man, Jimmy, how bad did we screw up with Ball Ridge Creek here? I think it's been fished out.
No, it hadn't been fished out.
Too many reports.
That's what it is. Too many pictures, too many reports, too many backgrounds. I don't know, but man, it varies from year to year, and the numbers this year in the creek have been down, and it made me question whether the creek is shot now. And I need to go to. I did go to Young Deer yesterday, and I fished my my dock run in Young Deer and some secondary points. But the biggest fish I had yesterday was out of Young Deer on a rocky point. I could probably tell you where it was real quick, but anyway.
Probably know where it's.
We probably both know where it's
Yeah, it's on my dock run. So anyway.
The start of it.
No, halfway through it.
Yeah.
Halfway through it. No, but I went over there and ran one set of docks, the docks in your cove. I saw your house, by the way.
Yep.
Ran them docks. If anybody knows where I'm talking about, don't waste your time.
Yeah. That's like one of those things that looks really good,
I
but
know. It was good. It was good last year and the year before.
the best place right there is that big clay point that comes out.
I know, the big long one. Yeah. There's
That-
always a boat on there, though, every time I go over there.
It can crank out some big ones though.
Yeah, I figured it's pretty popular. I see a boat on there a lot. But, I ranged out yesterday. I was like, man, the creek stinks. I got to go hit Jeff's Creek up. So I went over there and I made 2 dock runs over there and then fished some secondary points. Caught my biggest one and a couple small ones out of there, but it wasn't much better than it. So I came to the conclusion it's me, It's something I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need to switch worms. That's why I say I'm stuck on stupid. You guys are using Benji's worm, aren't you?
That's what I've caught most of my fish on the last probably 4 trips.
What made you switch?
Before then, though, my biggest fish this year's come on your
PB&J.
favorite, your PB&J.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, you're talking about dock fishing, don't count out the marina docks.
Oh, no.
My big fish, that 5-pounder came off the marina dock.
This marina?
Uh-huh.
Really? Where at? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
In the
kidding,
marina.
Jimmy. Yeah, in the marina. Yeah, in a dock in the marina. Yeah, the marina's good, man. You can't count out that or these community docks. The ones that have like 15 or 20 docks on them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't count those out either. Those are good ones too. Community docks. Before I forget, I wanted to we'll make a jump here. We'll quit talking about fishing reports and we'll talk about forward-facing sonar. But before I forget, I wanted to tell everybody that I took my Ranger in to get the 20-hour done with the fluids and the lower unit and all that stuff.
Your Skeeter.
Yeah, Skeeter. Yeah, I'm sorry. But anyway, CNS Marine, Chris and Joe over at CNS Marine, they got me right in today. They did a really jam-up job on getting my 20-hour knocked out, and my bilge pump had went out. And it wasn't working, and those guys... we determined that the bilge pump was bad at first, and we were getting ready to order another bilge pump, and we got to looking, and the bilge pump was clogged up with stuff, with goop, with silicone, and all kinds of stuff that was left in the bottom of the bilge. The boat's brand new, basically, and they didn't clean out the bilge real good, them Skeeter boys, and so it had a lot of gunk in there. The bilge actually came out of the mount, sucked up a bunch of gunk, and just screwed it up. But Chris and Joe, they were able to vacuum out my bilge, clean out the bilge pump, the auto bilge pump, get it back on the mount, and get it all going for me. I was telling Chris and them that had I taken it somewhere else, it probably would have been a 4-day wait and $800 to get that fixed. But those guys got it fixed in an hour and got everything cleaned up. So I wanted to give a shout out to Chris and Joe over at CNS Marine. These guys have been working on my boats, my Yamahas, for probably the last 5 or 6 years. And man, it's hard to find a better mechanic than those guys out there, and they do a real good job. So I wanted to give a shout out to them. And new Skeeter's working good. Got it up to 60 miles an hour for the first time today. So it handled good. It handled real good. I think Skeeter's come a long way with the way their boats ride. It wasn't like the old Skeeter that beat you to death. It was a pretty smooth ride, even in that messy chop out there at 60. I wasn't getting beat up, so it was a really good ride. So new Skeeter's working really good. As far as me guiding, that's probably a few weeks down the road, maybe 2 weeks. Something like that. I still got a few things to shore up. Plus, I don't want to take anybody out because I kind of stink right now. So we could have a good conversation, but we probably wouldn't have a good fishing trip. So anyway, that's still a couple weeks off before I get it together with that. So that's about all of that. What I did want to do was we wanted to talk a little bit about forward-facing sonar. And all the stuff that we've been reading about it, and all the crazy kookiness that's come up. And now I'm not like a forward-facing denier because I have it on my boat and I've been using it to catch fish. So it's not like I'm one of those dudes that hate it. But I was taking the general consensus from Jack and Jeff and Jimmy about what they thought about it and what they thought about all the controversy that seems to be coming from forward-facing sonar. And there's a lot of butthurt people about it, and then there's a lot of happy people about it too, So it just depends on whether you want to be on the butthurt side or the happy side of things, But general consensus, Jeff, Jimmy, Jack, we were all kind of the same. It's a tool, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a tool that goes on the boat. Everybody can have an opportunity to use it. If you're a professional fisherman and you don't like it, well, I mean, you don't like it, but still, you have the opportunity to use it and learn it. So like these guys that actually use it to their advantage, they spend a lot of time learning it, I have to look at Matt O'Connell. I mean, I can remember when he first bought it, and that was a few years back, and he's spent a lot of time and effort and money and what goes into learning that, So why would you want to take that away from somebody after all the work that they did to learn forward-facing sonar? It's not like you buy it and all of a sudden you're finishing in the top 5 in every tournament. You know, you have to learn how to use that.
Right.
You know, can you tell a small fish from a big fish on yours?
I'm getting to where I can, but
Can you?
yeah, especially closer. But I mean, when you first get it, no, you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
that's a
kinda
fish.
like-
But
yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, with experience, yes, you can start to tell the difference.
I was
But-
just happy to be able to see fish with mine when I first got it.
Exactly. That was exciting, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
but-
Jack, I mean,
But it tends to really piss you off because you see them and then you still can't make a bite.
right.
I mean, let's take the Toledo Bend tournament that you just had this last weekend.
That's a good example.
I would have thought, watching it on Bass Live, that they would be power fishing, they would be beating the banks,
Yeah.
they would be doing this, they would be doing that out there in Texas. It was one with forward-facing sonar out deep. Second place was out deep with forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's here. I mean, if you like it, use it. If you don't like it,
Turn it off.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
Or just don't buy it.
Yeah, right.
It's just another tool. I do not sit there and just watch it all the time.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year, especially. Since fish have started moving up and, we're out of the ditches for the most part now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a couple of days I didn't even turn down.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need it to pitch to a
Yeah.
shaky head to a dock.
Yeah. Yeah. How much percentage are you using it, Jeff? What do you think?
It adds to my total fish count, but I'm not I don't really go spend all day and I'm like, we're going to
You're
go
not
live scope.
dependent.
No,
It's not.
well, I mean, it's not beneficial for having 2 other people on the boat because, somebody can stand right next to me and we can live scope some fish. But then if there's a third person in the boat, they're kind of in the back and they're SOL until, things get better. So, I use it as a tool. I don't put as much effort into it to get phenomenal at it as some of the Matt O'Connells of the world, for example.
Guys that are making money.
Right.
I mean, it's
Because,
business.
I mean, it's not guide friendly. I mean, it's really not. I mean, it's cool. It can help us out, but you have to, the other person really needs to be next to you to get the line up and be able to do all of it. Now, am I spending more time when I'm by myself out using it? Absolutely, because I'm trying to get better so I can answer questions and,
Yeah.
and teach some people. But I'm still looking I use it as a supplemental tool to add in, and I probably, it probably adds a third of the fish I catch a year, probably added towards
So
it.
third.
Yeah. Thing is, if you're not using it, if you're a tournament fisherman,
Yeah.
if you're not using it, if you're fishing competitively and you're out there trying to make a buck, you're behind the 8 ball if you don't have it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But for the everyday weekend fisherman or
Recreational
guy, it is not a have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it. You can still
Sure.
get out there and catch fish traditional ways.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's another tool that you can add to your repertoire or whatever.
I would not rank it as the most important piece of technology on my boat.
No.
No, I wouldn't either. And we talked about this before we started recording. Probably mapping. Is
Mapping.
most
If I only
important.
could have one thing on the boat, if you're telling me you can have one piece of technology on this boat and it can do one thing,
Yeah.
it would be the maps.
Yeah. Yeah.
This man right here, before he got the skeeter, that's all he had.
Yeah. It was mapping.
You were that's the
That's
way
all
you
I-
were catching fish. Was
And I catch a
mapping.
lot of them that
Yep.
way too. Yeah, yeah. Well, here's another deal. I thought about this, Jack. Are you using forward-facing sonar a lot?
I think it depends on the time of the year. Like definitely, brush fishing.
Summertime.
Summertime is
Offshore.
probably a
Yeah.
lot.
you're using it a lot. Then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not in the winter. More of a bank beating thing.
Yeah, because
or-
they're so stuck in the ditches that a lot of times it doesn't matter. The mapping is more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you're junk fishing, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But have you seen some pros are using the Google glasses
Yeah. I
to
saw
project
that.
it on there?
Yeah. Yeah. What's-
Saves your back.
Yeah, I don't. I've never put on a pair of Google glasses, so I don't know what
Yeah.
that is.
Well, I mean, it would just be an advantage. I mean, it does hurt when you're staring down at that screen
Yeah.
in the summer all day.
Yeah.
You have it on your glasses instead.
So what's the Google glasses? What's that do? What does
It's
that
just a screen,
enhance
so you
it,
can
or-
see through your glasses like normal. You can see what's
It's a
going on.
HUD.
Yeah, but it's a pop-up of
Oh, it's a pop-up on the glasses?
yeah,
What?
yeah.
All
So you don't have to look
Technology.
Come on, man.
down. Some more
Okay.
controversy.
Well,
Well,
it-
it's not a guarantee. Like I said before the podcast, is like it's
Yeah.
not a guarantee. It doesn't
Right.
mean you're gonna catch fish. Just like a cell camera for a deer. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a guarantee.
See, even offshore fishing, I may go in and scope a brush pile.
Yeah.
June, July, whatever. And if the fish are there, I'm going to throw at them.
Yeah.
If they're not there, if I don't see them, it's something to eliminate non-fishable water.
Right,
in my
yeah.
opinion.
Saves on a few
Yeah,
casts.
saves a
too,
few
yeah.
casts if they're not there, and then you come back 2 hours later and it may be loaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I may still make a cast or two to see if I can pull something out of the brush, but most of the time, if I don't see the fish there, I'm gone to another brush pile.
Yeah.
Running and gun.
Well, here's my take on it is I don't mean to sound braggadocious or arrogant or anything, but I don't feel like I need it, I've got it and I use it from time to time. But for me, I'm kind of more of the purist type fisherman where I enjoy the challenge of not having. It's like the easy button. To me, if you turn on forward facing sonar, it's like hitting that easy button. Now you've got an edge because now you know where they're at, right? Well, for me, I'm kind of a purist and don't get me wrong, I don't dislike forward facing sonar. What I get off on is the challenge of finding the fish and catching it without it. Now, I'll use it. I'm cool with it. I'll use it, But, and I think it's kind of cool to use it, to watch them fish. I told you the other day, I can actually see the fish's tail wagging now, I mean, I dropped that swim bait down there, and some of those suckers will see that swim bait on the way down, and I see them kick that tail into. You see that tail go from this to going like this as they're headed up to meet my bait, And I'm thinking, oh, that's so cool. It's so much cooler than 2D, And so in that aspect, I'm like, dang, I like this, I like to be able to see that, and I could really get into this. And it's like the day. The clock, I told you the other day, the clock just spins when I'm using forward-facing sonar, but you turn that thing off and that clock slows down.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it is. But the way I get my jollies is I like the challenge of going out there and catching them without it. Going on my knowledge, whether it's reading shoreline or looking at my mapping and looking at areas that I know fish are going to stage. And I'm one of them dudes where I've been doing this long enough. Jimmy, you've been doing this long enough. Jeff, you've been doing this long enough. Jack, possibly you too, to where you probably don't need it. Now, it might help you. Like you said, it helped you catch a few extra fish. It helped me catch a few extra fish too. Probably saved on shoulder surgeries too, because your casts are cut in half when you have that on. You're kind of waiting to make your cast instead of blindly casting and retrieving and casting and retrieving, my whole deal is with forward-facing sonar is I'm kind of neutral in it. I could care less. I mean, I'm going to use it at times and I'm going to turn it off at times. I found my best day last week was with it off. And all I was doing was going to mapping, and all I was doing was looking for that green area because I've got my shades set up on my mapping to where that green area is 20 to about 32, 33. And that's my target area for these staging fish is that area. Not to say they're not up shallower, and I'll check shallower, but my target area is going to be that green area from 20 to on these secondary points, It's just the green area. And so I feel like the fish are going to be there every year. It doesn't take forward-facing sonar to figure that out, I mean, they stage every year. They don't not stage. So they're going to be in those areas every year. forward-facing sonar would tell me whether the fish were there or not. But you know, I'm cool with just going down the shoreline, looking for them secondary points on my mapping and checking them out and fishing it that way. That way the clock doesn't go, time doesn't go by so fast. I'm not like freaked out about chasing some fish off into the distance or whatever. So for me, I'm neutral. I mean, I'm cool with it. Take it or leave it. I don't care, Jeff. You're
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it when I use it, but I don't use it and rely completely on it. I go out and just fish also.
Yeah.
It's another tool.
So the big question here is, do you think that there should be any rule changes in any professional venue with forward-facing sonar? Should they be able to continue to use it? Should they have like two separate like sonar, forward-facing sonar group and a group of non? I mean, how do you guys feel about it being used in professional tournaments?
I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, if I see anything, maybe they limit the number of transducers that you can have on your boat. Instead of having 4 or 5, you can have 1 or 2 forward-facing sonar transducers, or they limit the number of inches of screens or something of that, where you force the guy to pick like what's most important to him. I could see maybe that happening. But, you know, in the great scheme of things, the genie's out of the bottle. You're not going to go put the genie back in the bottle now.
Yeah.
So you can kind of corral the genie where you want it to go and kind of shape the future. But the idea of like it's going away, I don't see that happening.
And
I just don't see it
years,
happening.
This is going to be.
It's going to be old school.
It's going to be old school.
Obsolete.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it maybe not obsolete, but there's going to be something bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Now, I was thinking about, I forget who I was talking with. There is a difference, so among you go, and if you look at like other individual sports, golf, tennis, and some other stuff of that nature, where it's individuals competing against individuals,
Yeah.
they have senior leagues. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but there's a huge difference between what a 65-year-old can do and a 22-year-old can do on a bass boat.
Yeah.
I mean, there physically speaking, the 22-year-old is going to be able to stand up and sit down exponentially faster. He's going to be able to deploy the trolling motor exponentially faster. He's going to be able to make cast after cast after cast after cast after cast. Mm-hmm. Over the course of a day, that adds up. And if you talk to any of the professionals, efficiency is a big deal. The guy who can make the most efficient cast over the course of the entire day is the guy who a lot of times is going to have the advantage, right?
Yeah.
So to no fault of the older individuals, just like to no fault of them on like the PGA Tour, for example, but they physically are not at the same level as a 22-year-old.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Period. I mean, the 22-year-old is going to make twice the number of casts over the course of a day as a 65-year-old.
I see where you're going with this, Jeff.
Period.
So you're going to let the senior citizens have forward-facing sonar, but not...
No, I mean, I would say you just do it. I mean, if you really want to get, well, you know, let's keep it, okay, well, you know what? Do a senior level then.
Yeah.
Do a senior tour where it's the senior dudes are competing against the senior guys, and then if they want to compete on the younger one, let them have at it. But if you want to separate them out, if the guys are like, well, I'm tired of competing against 22-year-olds who just do this all the time, okay, well, then start a senior tour. Yeah. We have a senior PGA tour. You have senior everything. Everything has a senior tour essentially on the individual sport level. So just bowling has a senior level tour.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
If I'm not mistaken, but I don't bowl. But I mean, it's just one of those things that I've seen over the course of time. So it's something to think about, and it's nothing against it. But I mean, I look at myself, and it's one of the things I look at when I have clients in the boat. Like when the guy shows up in the morning, I'm like, how many times is this guy literally going to be able to stand up and sit down today?
Yeah.
And then that is going to dictate oftentimes where I go and how I fish, because like there's some things, don't take this the wrong way, Jimmy, but the way I fish with Jimmy is going to be very different than the way I fish with an 18-year-old kid.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
Yep.
And I'm even limited. I mean, I've only got so many stands-ups and sit-downs, and I'm only 44. I mean, I do have a lot of hardware in me, but nonetheless, like, I can't even do it. I can't compete with a 22-year-old that's in great health as far as, like, summertime brush pile fishing.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Now, you get me on the front of the boat, you get me on the deck, I can stand up there all day long with you.
Right.
It's the getting up and down out of the well.
Oh, I know.
I mean, that's what hurts me. But like I say, once I get up and get my butt set on that Millennium seat up front, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah.
But getting up there sometimes after
know, it
you've been
takes
out
a
there
while,
about 5
doesn't it?
hours, it takes a while.
It does. Yeah, there ain't there's nothing wrong with taking a break every once in a while too, and resting and kicking back. But yeah, you're right, Jimmy. And I got one knee replaced, and the other one needs to be replaced, and a lot of that's from getting up and getting down. A lot of it's my weight, but a lot of it's just getting up and getting down with that big old gut of mine. So, that has a lot to do with it. But
It's not all that good Cajun food you cook here.
I know, man. I can't give up my good
Yeah,
food.
them crawfish are rich.
Yeah, they are. They're
Well,
fattening,
the lack
too.
of cartilage has nothing to do with all the marathons you ran.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that
Absolutely
was
nothing. I mean, that has nothing to do with the lack of cartilage in your
That's
knees.
what Lisa told me the other day. She goes, "Good thing you ran all them marathons back in the day. Now, it's like everything's got arthritis now. All the baseball, all the sports, all the softball, all the golf, all this fishing, all that stuff. Over periods of time, when you get old, you start seeing all this arthritis build up, and it's like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe
See, I was playing competitive softball at 38,
Yeah.
and that's probably why I've had 4 shoulder surgeries.
Well, see, I'm right there with you,
Yeah.
Jimmy. I played competitive baseball till I was.
The rod.
Huh?
The rod.
What about it?
We need to announce it.
Oh, yeah. Let's not forget that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I was reminding you.
Oh, okay. We got a winner though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it was.
Sorry to sidetrack you, but I know if we don't mention it, then we'll go down a rabbit hole and
That's all right.
we'll completely forget about it, and we'll
Yeah.
be walking out the door like, oh, man,
Save it for the next year.
it was a bummer.
No, but the dude that won the rod,
Mike Bell.
Mike Bell. I don't know if I know him, but Mike, if you're out there and you're looking, congratulations, you won a Zebco rod. No, no,
With a 202.
yeah, no. It was a really nice St. Croix, wasn't it?
You know, it was a Mojo Bass, one of the
There you
older
go.
series Mojo Bass. But yeah,
All right. Well,
which
there
is
you
the
go.
same blank as the current one. The difference is the real seats and the handles on the new ones compared to the old ones.
Well, there you go. There's a brand new rod, man. I wish I had a brand new St. Croix, but I don't. But anyway, congratulations. Thanks for playing. Thanks for entering. So you got a free rod. Just we'll reach out to you. I guess Jeff will probably reach out to you, or somebody will reach out to you. You can reach out to us, and we'll get that rod to you somehow, or you can pick it up. But yeah, that was the rod thing. Forward-facing sonar, I really have read a lot of controversy about this thing, and it really doesn't affect me because I'm not a professional fisherman. I'm not a tournament guy. I'm not up against guys that are using it. So I really, to put it bluntly, I don't have a dog in this fight, so I really don't care. I mean, I've got it. I'm going to use it. But as far as, I don't think anybody ought to use it or everybody ought to use it or whatever, I don't really care, Jeff. You're kind of the same way. Jimmy, we're old. We don't care.
It's a
Whatever.
choice thing.
Yeah.
If you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, don't use it.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, using it on tournaments, everybody that fishes the tournament has the ability to use it. So if you're out there and you're a professional fisherman and you're like, I don't like it or I don't need it, well, dude, you better get up with the program then, because that's probably why you ain't winning all them fat checks, Maybe you need to get it, But that's kind of the way I feel about it, And it's like I said before, I don't take anything away from the guys that use it because, like my buddy Matt O'Connell, I mean, it took him a while to learn that stuff. So you don't want to take anything away from that.
I mean, it's everything's relative, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, has forward-facing sonar changed certain aspects of fishing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Did spot lock change certain aspects of fishing? So if you have 2 guys fishing a ledge in the summertime on the Tennessee River, one guy has spot lock, one doesn't, who do you think's probably got the massive upper hand on that deal?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The dude with the spot lock has a massive. That's not saying the other guy's not going to catch fish. He's still going to catch some.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have near the advantage that guy, particularly if they're pulling water, the dude on spot lock can sit there and he can keep the exact same lineup and keep making the exact same cast over and over and over
It's
and over
one
again.
less thing that you got to do.
You know, if he hooks a fish, he doesn't have to go get line back up or go back to whatever. He just goes and puts the fish in a live well and goes back to fishing. So, I mean, compared to that, like, you know, the old Minn Kota Fortrex is,
I don't know what
which was a phenomenal trolling motor when it came out. But that, you know, that motor right now is like $1,200.
Yeah.
The new power pole is like 5,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you don't hear people complaining about that one, but it has drastically changed the way certain things are fished.
There's
you know?
no doubt, you know. Speaking of spot lock, with this new boat, my trolling motor, when I hit spot lock now, it just goes berserk. Because apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently you have to swing this thing.
You have
like
to calibrate it.
Compass calibration. I mean, we used to do that as an aircraft. We'd have to do it every year. We'd have to swing the compass, right? Well, apparently you have to do this with these before you can use spot lock. So I'm out there in the wind, you know, and I'm thinking, man, it'd be great to have spot lock right now. Hit spot lock, and it's like, jerking me all over the boat. I go, oh, I can't use spot lock to like calibrate this thing. So, man, I didn't know how important spot lock was. I used to have a Fortrex too, you know, and it didn't have it. And then I got spoiled on it, and so I'm setting up in the wind off a point, and I pull up, hit spot lock, you know, just thinking it's gonna spot lock me there, and it just
Depending on time of the year, spot lock has probably spoiled me more than forward facing.
Oh God, yeah, it has. When you don't have it and you need it, and you're trying to stay in one place and it's windy, it doesn't work, you know.
It's wonderful when you got a 20-mile-an-hour wind out of the south and you want to sit on a brush pile.
Exactly, yeah, that's when it, you know. We'll probably be saying that about forward-facing sonar in another year. I don't know what we ever did without it, Jeff.
But they all work together, though. Mm-hmm. You know, they all of these different things work together, and they all feed off of each other. So it's not like it is the pillar of everything. So spot lock is a building block on the pyramid. Forward-facing sonar is a block on that pyramid. Yeah. Side scan is still a block on that.
Yeah.
360 is a block on that. So you have all of these different things. The ultra high definition mapping that we have with 1 foot contour intervals that are just about as close to exact as you can get of our lake bottom that are updated like every so many years because somebody comes out here and remaps the bottom to adjust for the changing of sediment and all the other stuff. Like there is no substitute for that. We're not rolling out here with the old paper Lake Lanier map. You know, where, you know, a hump is a single dot on the map and you're like, okay, so it looks like I need to line up this point with that over there, and I should be somewhere, and then have to idle over it and throw a marker buoy off to the side. I mean, you know, you take any one of those out, and the other ones don't perform as well as they do today. So you remove the ultra high definition mapping, the other stuff is not going to be as good. You remove a spot lock, the other stuff is not going to be as good as it is today. So they all work together to get where we're at right now. You take one piece of that away, and they're not as effective. So they all work together as a cohesive network, for lack of a better way. And it is literally a network for you to end up with more fish in a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. It's a tool.
Well, I will say this. It's not always the best tool either. Because, like Jimmy said, I mean, I went without sonar for months and months, and I had no problem catching fish. I do know how to turn forward-facing sonar off, okay? So if I don't want to use it, I'll just turn it off and not use it and go to mapping, go back, you know.
And that is what the absolute best guys can do.
Yeah. A lot of guys like me, I've lived in this creek, on this creek for years, you know. Jimmy, you're the same way. You've been fishing. We don't really need it unless these knuckleheads all come and fish out the creek. Yeah. Then we might have to go to Jeff's creek and fish that out. But
Yeah,
You don't need it.
I can even in summertime fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get pretty dadgum close to my major brush piles without
Without
use.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Without any sonar.
Yeah. I can get close.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like this. Years ago, before mapping, and we just had 2D sonar, right out here in front of Mary Alice, or it's kind of in front of Mary Alice, the park, and way across, about halfway across, there's a hump out there in the middle, out in front of Mary Alice. It's out there in the middle. It goes from 80, 90 feet up to, you've seen that hump in the brush piles. You stop there almost every time you come out. But before any of the mapping ever came out, old school was, the way I would figure out where this hump was, where I would line up shallow water, a reef marker, way out that way on the other side of Mary Alice, way out past Mary Alice. And Mary Alice itself had a white, like a sign. So I knew that if I stayed halfway in between that reef marker over there and that white sign at Mary Alice out in the middle of the water, it was going to be close. And I had my 2D, and I could find where the water started getting shallow, and I could follow the 2D sonar right to the top of the hump. And that was before mapping came out. I mean, mapping made it easy, but before mapping, it was...
Triangulation.
yeah, it was
That's what you call
triangulation.
triangulating. Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna line up the big tree with the pontoon boat and the red buoy.
We
Let it
called
rip.
it, in seaman navigation terms, it was dead reckoning. You know, you would find a spot, a stationary spot, or two stationary spots, and you'd triangulate, and you'd use dead reckoning. So that's what guys like me that are old dudes and guys like Jimmy, before mapping came about, and probably when we had flashers, why we used a lot of, spots on the, on the shoreline for how we figured out where humps were and shallow points and all that stuff, So for me and Jimmy, and probably you too, Jeff, you probably read some shoreline too before all this stuff came out. But it's not that hard, I mean, if you can throw in reading the shoreline with everything else that we've got now, it's not that hard, really.
No, it's
But I like the mapping now because I don't remember those red buoy and the white pole marker. I mean, I might be looking at the wrong pole marker.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Nowadays, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking mapping is a big part today.
It is.
I've said it many a time. I don't know how I caught anything before mapping.
Yeah.
But I didn't do a lot of offshore fishing.
Yeah.
Then either. I was pretty much bank beater.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But
Yep.
bank beating on this lake right here, except for maybe now, you're going to be behind the 8 ball if you're not offshore doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really want to throw people for a curve bass fishing? Like, really throw them for a curve? Take their maps off their boats.
Yeah. That'll mess you up in a heartbeat.
Go to a brand new lake you've never been to and not have a map, and go try to find fish.
Yeah, no, that's bad. I've been there and done that, I can remember before flashers when
I mean,
the fish finder was Grandpa, I mean, the best fish finder you had was Grandpa.
yeah, and
He knew where they were, But anyway, we've come a long way. I wrote this in a report, but I hadn't published my report yet. It'll come out on Friday. But I had written the first time I ever used a flasher, and I caught a fish using a flasher, But I wrote the story of how we've come from, and that was back in like 83, right? 82, 83, something like that. And we've come from watching that little flashing red dot in that circular flasher to where we're at now with forward-facing sonar, in 40 years or whatever. But
Yeah, you couldn't watch the fish's tail wiggle. with
no,
the
not
flash.
at all. And that's what I put the difference. The difference was you just wait for that little bit of a blip on that flasher to light up, And now we're watching actual fish, their tails wagging,
And
So
with the
it's
flasher, you had to be looking at it at that moment.
at that moment.
Now you can go back and look at, say, 2D or side scan or down scan, and you can follow that fish
Yeah.
and still get back to it if you want to.
I know. You can do a lot. You can even move you can move your transducer around to follow the fish as he's swimming. That flasher,
Yeah.
you had about a 2-second window, and that was about it with the flasher. If you
This
missed
all
that.
comes back to technology, how it's advanced.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep advancing.
Yeah.
So if you're butthurt about technology, I mean,
Man.
you're butthurt. That's all I can say. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, good luck. And, it's like I said before, it doesn't take a lot to make me happy when I'm out there fishing.
I'm happy just being out there.
I am too. It doesn't take I mean, how many fish do you want to catch? Is it that you want to catch more fish? Is it you want to catch all the big fish? I'm pretty much happy with going out there and mastering it without it, so I'm cool. I'm a kind of guy that break the barbs off. I've told you before, I've taken barbs off of hooks to make it more in the fish's favor, or smash down the barb and give him even more of a chance. That's sport to me, I guess you can make it easier by getting forward-facing sonar, but I'm kind of an old school guy, so. But anyway, anything else about forward-facing sonar?
I think we pretty much
We beat
Beat the dead horse.
the tar out of it, yeah.
just see how our people that watch this see how they react to it.
Yeah.
Some
Well.
feedback.
Oh, there goes the followers.
Yep.
Yeah, our following's going to be doing. Now, well, I do want to check into going live before too long, maybe by April or something like that, and when it warms up a little bit, and maybe testing out the live version so we can get some feedback that's in real time. So. But that's all we got tonight. Like I say, we don't have a guest tonight, so we just thought we'd chat a little bit. We hadn't had a show in probably 3 weeks or a month or so. So, Jack, you got anything? What do you got going on?
I just got back from a cruise from Mexico, so that was cool. We picked up on the way back. We picked up some Cubans in a raft,
Oh, did
which
you?
is pretty cool.
Nice.
And Coast Guard picked them up, so that was exciting.
Did y'all get to greet them and shake their hands, or just?
Coast Guard wasn't playing around, so
Okay.
they took them back.
Oh, they took them back to Cuba.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
they don't mess around.
Yeah.
A lot of times, apparently they refuse help because they know they're just going to get sent back.
Right,
But
they wanna make
these guys
sure.
were literally they were bailing water out of their raft.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, so
Oh.
yeah,
So you
Probably a good
they
thing.
probably picked them up on international waters.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't inside
Yeah.
territorial waters.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a sauna down in Key West when I was in the Navy, and the security dude come in the sauna, and he was sitting in the sauna with me, and so he was telling me about the Cuban refugees that come from Cuba to Key West. He said if they can make it to the beach, there's certain things that have
free.
to happen. They're home free, but they have to make it to the beach, and he said most of them make it to the beach there.
Yeah.
But he told me some of the stuff that it's like they roll out the red carpet for these guys if they make it to the beach.
It's crazy.
Yeah, down in Key West. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so anyway, but yeah, them Cubans, they're coming over,
Yeah.
So,
Everyone's coming over.
Yeah.
I got this pro tournament coming up Saturday.
Oh, that's this Saturday.
And
You
then-
fishing it?
Yeah, fishing Spro.
That's right. Yeah.
Gonna be
Forward
interesting.
facing sonar.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Nothing but
That's
hard
allowed.
Nothing but hard.
Nothing but hard baits. Yeah.
Spro and a jerk bait.
So pretty much
Rock crawl and a jerk
crawler,
bait and let her rip.
Oh,
rattle trap.
God, yeah, rock crawl.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So I'll be doing that. Then I'm shooting a match, long range match on Sunday. And then we got turkey season coming up.
That's right.
So we got everything
Where are you shooting your long range, Matt?
at Riverbend.
I was going to say that's the only long range facility there is around here, not there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For until like Alabama.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
Well, this is pretty good practice for you because you're hanging out with three pretty good turkeys right here tonight. So,
Yeah. So River Bend, I got a buddy that works over there, Chris. His name's Chris. I got to say hi to Chris. He's probably watching, but yeah, he's one of the range. Well, I guess they call them range masters,
officers, yeah.
range officers over there. Yeah. So I went over there and shot not too long ago. So that's a cool place. I like it. Yeah.
Beautiful facilities.
So when are you doing this?
That's Sunday, the
That's
next
Sunday.
day after this pro tournament.
Man, you got a busy weekend though.
Yeah, I'm gonna be tired.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
You're young though, Jack. You can handle it.
Yeah, you can sack them up real good and then still go shoot.
Yeah. Well, cool. Anybody else got anything? Jimmy, you okay? You
I'm
good?
Yep.
Yeah. You gonna be back out there tomorrow?
I don't know about tomorrow.
Chilly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's post-frontal thing. I haven't been doing very well the first day after a front comes through.
I hear you. Well, I'll probably go out. Jeff, you going out?
Is the sun coming up?
That's right.
Does
I'll
the
probably
day
see
end
you
in
out
Y?
there.
I mean, am I in the state of Georgia and the sun's coming up?
Yes. Yes.
Very-
All those have been met.
Yeah, then odds are better than not. I'm going fishing tomorrow.
Okay. You got a trip?
No, actually, I don't. I don't have a trip again till Monday or Tuesday, I think.
All right. Well,
Monday.
I'm gonna probably go out, but depending on what's going on, I think I'm gonna go up north. And when I say up north, I'm talking about up north. North of Browns Bridge somewhere.
And fishing's good,
I know.
or
man.
relatively good.
It's got to be better than Ball
I'm going up
Ridge.
north tomorrow.
Are you? Well, it's got to be better than Ball Ridge. I think Jimmy fished Ball Ridge out. Well, I'm sitting here looking at him. I wanted to give a shout out to Lanier Baits and LJ. He hooked me up with some Demiki heads that I've been using, and also Benji from Trickster Custom Baits. Benji gave me some Demiki heads too, and I caught a couple nice ones yesterday. I caught a couple nice ones on Benji's head, and a net bait swim bait. I can't remember what they call them. They got some funky name for them, but it was an albino colored net bait swim bait, and it's about a 3-inch swim bait, and I just happened to buy a bag of them, and I've been like, when I put them on them Demiki heads, these fish, they're biting it better than they're biting the 2.8 Kitech. I'm just wondering if they haven't seen the Kitech so much that they're like, man, let's turn something different, But I've been using this little net bait. I'll take a picture of it and put it in my report too. But
Speaking of Lanier Baits,
Yeah.
they do have some new stuff out, some new colors.
I saw that.
Yeah, I had some and I was going to bring them tonight and I forgot it. But they've got in the little 4-inch that they've come out with. They got some good new colors in it, and the jerk shad, the original jerk shad, they're coming out with a couple of new colors in it,
Nice.
if not already. And I think they're going to be good.
Good.
Yep.
I saw the way they had that blue and what was it? Purple.
Purple, blue
it
shad, and what I
called?
call purple shad. I don't know. Are you talking about?
Worms.
The worms?
Yeah, it was a blue and purple combo.
Yeah, that's a good color.
I was like, oh man, that looks kind of like the PB&J, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I like that color. I saw their new colors.
Yeah,
that
and
they
it's
had.
been Corey posted today on Facebook. I think they're pretty much stocked up with their newer stuff, at least at Hammond's,
Yeah,
and probably some more shops.
good.
So
Well, all right then. That's all of that. Just wanted to give those guys a shout out and thank them for the Demiki heads. They working real good. So, anybody else got anything? Everybody good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll have another one here before too long. Hopefully, we'll get Jennifer and her granddaughter to join us. So, okay. We'll see you next time.